Hello and welcome to the Brother Slim. We are back for some Oathsworn story time, diving into chapter 14, The Feast. Yes, okay. You are infected. The thought goes round and round in your heads as you sit in the ruins of a burnt-out building north of the river. You managed to save many lives by getting them across the bridges to the southern districts of Varun, but you could not manage to save yourselves. Hopelessness threatens to overwhelm you. Looking down at the black spots forming on your arms, you know it is only a matter of time before the death bell tolls for you. Everywhere you look, you see what the plague can do to people. This part of the city is overflowing with infected souls, and you've had to kill more than a few who drew too close. The sounds of people screaming in the distance tell you not everyone is faring so well. As you stare into the smoldering remains of a seamstress's shop, you hear footsteps approaching. Taking a deep breath, you draw your weapons and ready yourselves for another attack by the infected. However, standing atop some old timbers, you find the asset who journeyed with you to the Witchwood. As he stands alone, you find it difficult to focus your gaze upon him, as though your eyes refuse to obey. You force yourself to make eye contact and ask him if he comes to finish the job the plague started. With a tilt of his head, the asset smiles. "If I had, you'd be dead already," he replies softly. "Besides, you are not allowed to die yet." The man produces a curative jar from inside his dark cloak and passes it to you. It appears to be some kind of green elixir. Then he hands you a sealed note. As you break the black wax seal, the asset carefully watches you, waiting like a coiled snake, ready to strike. The note reads, "Heroes of Varun, heroes of Bastogne, we know you have become infected. The elixir will slow your demise and prevent you from spreading it to others. Do not squander it. It has been made from a substance which was taken from the Witchwood, and no more can be produced. Imbibe the contents equally among yourselves and return to the line. You are needed." Interesting. So I'm assuming that's what the asset retrieved from the Witchwood. Cool. There is no signature on the note, only the mark of the raven. You know all too well. This is from the Watchers. With nothing to lose, each of you take a dose of the green elixir. Okay, so which keyword do we have? We have infested, I believe. Just gonna double check. Greasy old ghetto sheet here. Infested it is. So 1.7. Looking at your arms, you see the black spots begin to fade, though they do not disappear completely. Still, you can feel the roots of the infection coiling around your insides. For the moment, you do not need to worry about dying. At least, not today. Well, that's something. Open Mystery Envelope Y. Each Oathsworn gains one Plague injury card. Write down Plague Stage 1 on your company sheet, and lose a hit point. Okay, well, let's do what we can do here. Plague Stage 1. Plague Injury card. So these, if you're playing the full game, would be part of your card deck draw in fights. The Plague. You are on borrowed time. This card is permanent and cannot be lost for any reason. If you do not have two ability cards in your hand with cooldown X, where X is the current stage of the Plague, apply your current stage effects. Stage 1. Move all cards on 1 or 2. Move all cards on 1 or 2. Oh, interesting. Oh, no, 1, 2, 2. So basically it means cards that you have are more expensive to use. Lose a combat token, your choice, stage 3, lose 1 health. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, if you ask me, 3 and 1 are definitely the worst. But cool, very cool. Oh, one thing I wanted to show off too, I totally forgot. So I did stop by Shadowboard Games' booth at Gen Con, and they were giving out some free little extra promo ally cards. So we have Sir Tom Vassal of House Dice Tower, who I think is extremely OP. Move 4, Seal of Excellence. Once per encounter, another friendly character criticals during an attack that they hits, they may draw 6 white instead of 1, which feels bonkers. So basically leveling your actual characters up for crits, which is pretty cool. So yeah. Fun promo ally. Ta-da! Also, I'm using a different camera, my older camera, and I feel like the focus is way better. Huh. Interesting. I think I'm going to have to switch out which cameras I'm using. Wow. Learn something new. Anyways, don't mind me being distracted there. So don't need to worry about losing hit point because we're not actually playing. And 1.9 we go. So flippy flippy. The asset bids you to follow him down a nearby street where you find a dozen infected corpses. These people were clearly slain by blades, though not by you. Carefully considering the asset, your suspicions of his lethality are written plainly in the blood pooling at your feet. The shadowy man proceeds to lead you south between crumbling buildings and smoke-filled alleys. Slipping down one narrow street, a flaming building collapses before you in a heap of timber and debris. Okay, so perform a survival check. Any fail, lose hit point. Working your way through the charred remains, you carefully avoid several still-burning sections of rubble, patting out flames that scorch your clothing, and finally reaching the far side of the avenue. You find the asset already waiting for you several feet ahead, unharmed and leaning against a wall. You swear there's a look of amusement on his face as he turns and continues down the alley. One kind of interesting thing, so we read the little optional chapter where you can unlock the Grove Maiden, which is a fight, and it kind of talks the asset down on us a little bit, where... Oh no, it didn't make the asset seem that scary. Basically, they decided to back down and didn't fight us for not killing the Grove Maiden, so I guess it's a calculated risk, but just kind of funny that they're super OP seeming and dangerous seeming now. I guess versus that the Grove Maiden was there too, so that was 5v1 versus 4 plagued people versus 1, so maybe that's it. Okay. Turn to 1.8. Back we go. You were led down to the gutters among the still flickering flames from the conflagration, which was used to stop the plague's advance. Looking down the length of the former riverbed, you see hundreds if not thousands of charred corpses strewn about. Infected and uninfected alike lay where they fell, as they desperately tried to scale the south wall of the riverbank. Further down, you see a fresh wave of the infected throwing themselves at the defenses and being pushed back by fire and waves of flaming arrows. The siege at the riverbank is by no means over, but at least its defenders seem to be holding the barricade for now. You then watch as the asset pries open a large stone slab in the riverbank's wall, revealing a hidden access door. You soon learn, the portal takes you through a labyrinth of dark passages and wet corridors, heavy with the smell of mold and rat droppings. After several minutes, you emerge at an open park-like area which very much looks like the great courtyards of the palace estate. Hundreds of tents and makeshift tenements have been hastily erected, and the scene is bustling with men, women, children, all of whom seem to be either survivors or soldiers from... this sentence is giving me grief. Or soldiers from north of the river. Every open bit of space is now packed with refugees. In a show of rare unity, it seems the nobility have opened their gates to the people, allowing them to camp in the gardens and courtyards of their district. The king surely has something to do with this. The nobles would never offer such clarity to their neighbors of their own accord. The asset finally stops beside a large tent with a sign you know all too well hanging from the top. The edges of the broken sign are charred somewhat, but it still reads clear, The Broken Oak. A welcome sight after everything you've been through. As you turn to address the asset, you find him already gone, having disappeared once again into the crowd. Drawing back the canvas door of the large tent, you enter into the new home of the Broken Oak. So the asset is basically Batman, love it. How can I run a tavern without ale, you hear Bram protest as he stands behind the savage plank of wood that has become the new bar top. That swill you brewed back at the old oak could hardly be called ale, but that never stopped you before. Besides, it's that winning smile of yours people come to see, Grey Cane replies. Bram tries to scowl, but it is betrayed by the corners of his mouth that begin to turn up in a suppressed grin. Grey Cane winks at the barkeep and then spots you. Oathsworn! He beams as he instinctively moves to embrace you, but stops short. You made it south of the river? What about your infection? You tell him of the elixir, and he relaxes, sheathing a dagger you had not noticed him draw. Only then does he embrace you. You're a sight for sore eyes, you know that? He says. If you have Paragon or Green Thumb, which we definitely have Green Thumb, turn to 1.2, so let's do that. Standing before your assembled companions, your gaze falls on Midge and Bram, both clearly struggling with warring emotions. Though pleased to see you alive, they are still troubled by the fact that you left them when the fires came and the infected began their assault of the city. Your actions saved hundreds, but that means nothing to those who you were forced to leave behind, particularly the dead, and some of those dead were painfully close to Bram and Midge. After a few moments, Bram pours you a drink from a small cask he had saved. Come rest your tired bones, friends, he says. Midge, not quite ready to forgive, runs off with tears streaking down his face. Turn to 1.4. No, that's sad. Sitting at the hastily assembled bar of the new Broken Oak, you are not at all surprised when the tent flaps part to make way for a member of the King's Guard. You knew your rescue would come at a price, and the scroll in the guard's hands will tell you just how high that price will be. Taking the proffered scroll, Greycane splits the seals. Blah, sorry, reading is apparently very hard today. Splits the seal and begins to silently read. Well, they're not wasting any time, he says. They're forming an army for a crusade into the heart of darkness. You are all to travel further afield and gather the witches needed for the keening by the second moon. They make it quite clear this is not optional, he says with a sideways smile. It looks like you are going to Thrace. Da-da-da-da. Thrace is where the Blade character is from. The Blade himself. La-di-da-di-da. Also where we found a mask in the very first episode in the live play series. And also where the noblish assassin lady from last episode was from too. So very interesting. Cool. Okay. Cool. Okay, so it looks like we are going to Thrace indeed. Choose one. Accept the contract because otherwise you will be hunted down. Accept the contract to help humanity. Accept the contract because you might find a cure for your infection. Let's help humanity. We've been goody-goody folks this time for sure. So 1.10. Oh, Oathsworn gain a redraw token. Turn to 1.3. Whoop, whoop. You wake early the next day and begin preparations for the journey ahead. Thrace is commonly known as the City of Masks, but you are more acquainted with its other name, the City of Slaves. You will want to be well prepared for whatever you may encounter there. You may start a trade with a banksmith and apothecary. Hours later, you find yourselves back on the wire road, trudging beneath the cursed canopy of the Deepwood with the hopes of a city once again on your shoulders. You wonder how you got into this mess. It's a nasty job, but someone has to do it, and it just became very personal for you. Without a witch, the keening will not be possible, and you won't be finding a cure for the plague now worming its way through your body. The city will die, and you along with it. The thought gives you purpose and drives you on through the Deepwood. Turn to 2.1. Your journey takes you to the lands east of Varun, along the only stretch of the wire road leading to Thrace. Before your departure, Greycane felt it necessary to educate your group on the peculiarities of Thrace, so as not to, as he called it, cause an incident. He was very clear to convey that while Thrace is a vassal state under Varun's law, it is the 5 dynastic families who hold all power there. The hardest reality to accept will be the slavery, he had said. Tread lightly when you encounter it. You may see people being abused, but to the 5, slaves are merely property. Do not interfere in their business unless you are looking for a fight. The journey passes with relative ease. Also, I feel like this is a perfect example of the writing in this game telegraphing more than likely outcomes for your actions future when you make decisions. The journey passes with relative ease, but as dusk falls on the 7th day, you hear a sound no free company wants to hear. A distant buzzing growing louder as it draws near. Quickly, taking cover behind rocks and trees, you brace yourselves as a swarm of burrowers, insects the size of your thumbs, zip past. Most of the swarm passes by without issue, but a small contingent senses your presence and dives. For your eyes, nose, and mouth, seeking a way in. Okay, well, let's say we succeed, going to 2.9. Striking a torch, you wave the flames wildly in front of your own face. The fire singes your skin, but manage to force the fighting insects into a retreat with burnt wings. After a few moments, the buzzing rises once again, and you realize the threat is not over yet. Okay, turn to 2.5. The buzzing quickly grows louder as the bulk of the swarm wheels around. I was like, this seems like it would be causing a scene in the Deepwood, and indeed it did. The buzzing quickly grows louder as the bulk of the swarm wheels around and focuses their full attention on you. Burrowers will strip a man to the bone in minutes, or burrow deep into your flesh and lay their eggs in their thousands. Oh gosh, they're like kind of like bot flies in our world. It's a bad way to go, indeed. You need to come up with a plan quickly if you wish to live. There is no way to outrun these insects, but you may be able to distract them. Burrowers only seek to lay their eggs in and consume food. Burrowers only seek to lay their eggs in and food to consume. I think that might just be a bit of a typo, or just a weird sentence, unless I'm reading it just poorly. Since you are not about to give them your flesh, your rations are your only option. There is no telling how much food will be needed to distract a swarm of that size, and so you dump everything. You might die of starvation, but if this distraction fails, you will not live long enough to find out. After spreading all your rations across the ground, you immediately run along the wire. Each Oathsworn performs a survival check, difficulty 3, add 1 to your result if you are in a Dendry. We'll just go ahead and say that we succeed, so 2.3. You charge along the wire road at full pelt, trying to put distance between yourself and the swarm. The fact that you are not dead yet tells that your distraction must be working. 2.8. Your lungs burn from sprinting. It feels like you've been running all night, but the thought of the excruciating death propels you on. With one hand on your blade and the other on the wire road, you bound over a fat root, duck around a deepwood tree, and suddenly stop. The wire road is gone. Sections of the wire road commonly break or become severed by the ever-shifting woods. Teams of wire runners are always busy following the cables and maintaining those lifelines. Just as an aside, wire runners, I think, would make a cool campaign concept. For whatever reason, this section has not been repaired for some time. The wire to Thrace ends here. The buzzing drone of the swarm grows louder behind you once again. Though they are quite a ways off at the moment, it will not be long before they catch up to you. Every fiber of your being is urging you to run. Now. Choose one. Okay, run to the Deepwood without heading. Well, we've done that before, and we've made it through, and I don't know if we want to tempt fate with that again. So I think we're going to do 2. Hold onto the wire and try to find another solution. 2.6. Running off into the Deepwood without a bearing is suicide. You would become lost in a matter of moments and never find your way out. As you frantically search for another escape route, you catch sight of tiny lights off in the distance. Looking closely, you see small jars filled with glowflies hanging from the trees. Dozens of them, forming a crude pathway that winds off into the darkness. The glowflies would not last long in those jars, which means someone is maintaining them. It clearly leads somewhere, and considering what's chasing you, anywhere is better than here. Keeping one hand on your blade, you release the wire and follow the lights. Follow the lights! 2.10. Following the trail of jar-like lanterns through the trees, you eventually come to a wider clearing, seemingly untouched by the Deepwood. In its center is a small village. Strangely, the settlement has no palisade walls protecting it, and you cannot imagine how anyone could survive out here without at least that one crucial aspect of protection. Turning your focus back to the untainted ground, you try to make sense of how the Deepwood's touch could possibly have been kept at bay here. Suddenly, a woman steps in and approaches. "Greetings, travelers. My name is Nydia," she says, introducing herself. "I am the village elder here, as well as an herbalist for my sins. Welcome to our refuge." She considers you with a warm smile, pulling back her cowl to reveal a long mane of red hair, streaked with ribbons of silver. Her soft golden eyes watch your every move. After explaining your situation, she nods gracefully and invites you to stay. "I am afraid we do not have much, but we are happy to help in any way we can. If you are not in a hurry, we will gather some supplies and help you find your way back to the wire road. Though you would prefer not to delay your mission further by resting here, the truth remains you would have died if not for this village. You ultimately agree to accept the offer and are provided a small hut for the night, as well as some hot soup from the kindly woman. Staying in a village unprotected by walls, it is all but impossible to relax, let alone sleep. Instead, you grip your weapon tight and wait for the coming dawn that turns at 26.1. Okay. When morning comes, you are invited to join the rest of the village for breakfast. Daylight allows you to take your first clear look at the settlement, which predominantly consists of ramshackle huts arranged around wide commons with a tall building in its center. Amazingly, the ground here does not consist of the usual chaotic mess of green mud and cursed deepwood roots, but rather plush green grass. You cannot recall ever seeing anything like it. Every village and settlement is forced to hack away the invading flora on a daily basis, or salt the earth to keep the deepwood's touch at bay. But somehow, this area remains pristine. While sharing a meal of light stew and soft breads, you ask Nydia how they've managed to cultivate such wonderful grass without it being corrupted by the woods. The one protects us, the one being capitalized, so the one is clearly sub-being. She replies with her signature warm smile. You notice other villagers look to you with a similar countenance of Nydia as she speaks. We are delighted to have you here with us, travelers. Oh, creepy. Cult vibes, for sure. Just gonna move this mic a little closer to my face here. After breakfast, you steer the conversation towards the issue of getting back to the wire road. You learn they have been unable to find the wires to Thrace for some time. Only the way back to Varum is known. Unfortunately, there are no maps of this area, Nydia tells you. We set the lanterns in trees to help those who become lost. Some choose to stay, others move on. There is another village to the west of here, whom we trade with on occasion, Perhaps they may have a map to help you get back on the road. Nydia hands you a spool of thin silver line. Take this. Use it to trace your way. If you become lost again, you can follow it back here. There's enough thread for at least a day's journey. Very interesting. Kind of gives me ATO vibes right now, as we've seen the silver spool guiding people through the labyrinth in that game too. Not only reading, but talking is hard today too. It's a Sunday morning, and I'm I guess still waking up and eating coffee, and I just figured I'd pop in and do this. But yeah, not my best reading day today, but that's okay. Okay, cool. So open mystery box Z. The last time we did this was, I think, the last actual chapter that we played, and we totally mucked it up and caused a continuity loop where we just kept going back and spent hours real time trying to figure out our mistake. It sucked. Onus error was entirely on us though. So place the village tile from mystery box Z in the center of the table. This represents the village of refuge. Place 4 clear Deepwood tiles around the village as shown. Place your free company marker on the village tile. Okay, well, let's start setting this up here. I don't know how much of this I'm actually going to be able to fit on camera here, but we'll try our best. Okay, so those are the rules. Okay, and okay, so Deepwood journey rules. Again, last time we did this, we totally messed this up. So let me. Okay, so Journey Deepwood rules. I've just read through them. We'll put them up on screen here really quick for anyone who wants to take a read through as well. Last chapter that we did this, we totally mucked it up. I think we mucked it up because of losing our place in the book and reading the wrong thing. But what it resulted in was now, come on, focus up. There we go. Me being very confused on how to do it correctly or not. So we'll see how this goes, and I might just MacGuffin it too, because again, Sunday morning, just here for the story, not to spend a whole bunch of time on this. Already, Rue. So we've got the village set up in the center here. We'll use the blade put in the middle, and we've got our time track up here. We're probably gonna have to move it as we build out this map, because from my understanding, I think we do build out the map rather than it being reset to just this every single time. So. Or like this same little shape or whatever. All right, so place tracker tokens showing the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the village tile. That we can do. So we got 6, 5, 4, and 1, 2, 3. I don't know how, if we're gonna have to adjust that with these or whatever, but we shall see. That's roughly how it shows on in the rules. Okay, you need to find a way back to the wire road heading to Thrace. You have enough string for 1 day of travel. Triggering on triggers on the time event tracks will indicate when you have reached a day's travel and send you back to the village of refuge. Choose a direction to go in: north, east, south, west. Well. West side, best side. Let's go west. 45.1. 45.1 seems really far away. There we go. 45.1. So we scoot to here, which means we have this. this, and this. Yeah, if anyone wants to correct me in the comments on if I'm supposed to build the map out, or if I'm supposed to, also, I just went the wrong way. Maybe I'm just directionally challenged these days. So there we go. But yeah, if anyone wants to point out if I'm supposed to build the map out and we kind of discover things, or if it's just supposed to be like, I'm just supposed to make this, I'd be very curious. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. Okay, so nothing here. Choose direction to go in. Well, I mean, let's keep going west and see what happens. 29, oh nope, 20, oh my goodness, 47.1. Okay, so that brings us to here. And for 47.1, we cannot go north or west anymore. In which case, let's go south to 28.1. So back we go. There we go. And this one we have, so we can go west more. We'll probably do that. Well, let's go west to 30.1. So there we go. And 30.1. Oh, we actually have something to read here. That's fun. Okay, so I feel like this is a correct way to do it, is building this map out over time. So I think I'm doing this right. Let's see if we can. This is going to be a little janky, methinks, but that's okay. 30.1, here we go. And then last but not least, we have another path down here. So I'm going to run out of room on this table very fast, but that's okay. The sickening stench of rotting animal flesh rises in your nostrils. You raise your weapons, ready for any predator that may be lurking nearby. As you part some bushes, you find the source of the putrid smell. A pair of dead carcasses lay on the earth. Inspecting the husks, you find a large hole in each of their sternums, through which it seems their insides have been sucked out. Okay, so perform a search check. Sounds good, sounds good. 30.3. You find several toppled trees and broken limbs around the area where the two creatures were eaten. Whatever killed them must have been huge. There are indeed blood-sucking creatures in the Deepwood, but you've never seen any as big as these. Choose or gain a defense token and choose a direction to go in. Well, let's keep going south, which is going to be, again, off our map soon here. So this is 24.1. Oh my goodness, there are so many 26s. There we go. Okay, very interesting. So, and we have, there we go. And there we go. And we have found a ruined village. So we're just going to grab that tile quick here. There's a lot of these, which is pretty cool. And we'll just show off that little art there too. These map tiles are super neat. And we'll put that just underneath ourselves. There we are on the ruined village. And let's see what's going on at this ruined village. Pushing through a thick tangle of vines, you come upon a ruined village. Investigating the settlement, you find it hard to believe this could be the town Nydia spoke of. The place appears to have been dead for several months. However, having come across no other villages on your trek west, it is the only possibility that makes sense. Okay, reasoning check, 24.2. Being a trading partner to Nydia's isolated village, you wonder how she could have been unaware of its demise. Perhaps you ought to question some of the other settlers back at the refuge to see if they knew anything. Gain clue token 1. Clue token 1, we'll just use a dice here, so we have clue token 1. Making the best of the situation, you decide to search the remains of the ruined village for anything of use. With any luck, you may find an intact map of the area or other gear. You spend some time turning over stones and looting long decomposed corpses, but only uncover a few minor items of value. And as the sun dips lower in the sky, you are forced to accept that you probably will not find anything to guide you back to the wire road of Orthrace today. On your way out of the village, your eye catches the glint of iron in the distance, and, upon investigation, you find several corpses with large puncture wounds in their chests. Da-da-da! It's just like the corpses that we found on the way here. Their attire is unmistakably Scar Tribe and looks to be of the same group you encountered in the treetop village. They must have a hunting ground in the area. The tribe may have been responsible for the death of the village, but the remains are far too decayed for you to determine what transpired here. With your search complete, you begin the trek back to the refuge, respooling the silver line as you retrace your steps through the woods. Gain 2 common items from the common item deck and 8 iron. Place time tokens on the time track until you place... Place time tokens on the time track until you place a time token on the next immediate effect. Then resolve it. Okay, so from my reading of this, this means that we fill up this day and we go to here, I think, right? So go to 26.8 in the storybook. Kind of wild, but I think that makes sense. Well, let's see, 26.8, okay. Okay, cool, this makes sense. You return to the village just before nightfall. Place your free company marker on the village. That we shall do. There we go. Nydia is already waiting for you the moment you step into the woods, or from the woods into the clearing. Did you find the wire road, she inquires, or the village at least? For the following options, you are not considered to have clue tokens that are on the village tile. Remember that clue tokens are not tracker tokens. If you have clue token 1, which we do, go to 26.6. Alrighty. You explain how you were unable to find the village, but it had been how you were able to find the village, but it had been destroyed and seemed to have been abandoned for several months. Nydia is shocked and saddened by the news, telling you how she considered them to be good people. You ask how long it had been since anyone traded with them. Not for several months now, she replies, before walking off to speak with some of the other villagers. Place clue token 1 on the village tile. Oh, okay, so we do actually need to fill these up, so let's do that. Boom, boom, boom. And 1 more. There we go. So we've got 8 tokens down there. Alrighty, so we've got 8 tokens, 26.25. Flippy, flippy, flippy. Let's get a triple check to make sure that that is correct. 26.25. With the sun now set, you decide this may be a good opportunity to speak with a few other villagers or explore the settlement a bit before bedding down for the evening. Okay, let's do, we got Tracker 4 token. Only if Tracker 4 token. Turn to 26.15. Let's do it. Remove Tracker 4 token from the village and archive it. The village feels quite peaceful in the waning light of day. Most of the villagers have retired to their huts for the evenings, and you see the warmth of amber fires through their small windows. Everything about the settlement seems to defy the realities of the Deepwood, which I feel like is not a good sign. Somehow, the settlement seems to defy... I just read that. Somehow, its corrupting touch has completely overlooked this place. But most incredible of all is how it has managed to survive what appears to be a very long time without the protection of palisade walls. You've heard rumors that there were areas of the Deepwood where monster encounters are rare, but your practical experience has always forced you to dismiss such claims. Perhaps the One truly does watch over and protect this place. Okay, 26.17. As you wander the village, most of the people you encounter appear somewhat off and apprehensive. It is almost as if they are trying to avoid you. Perhaps they are afraid. The entirety of the village sits within a perfect circle of untainted land. Each home is of simple construction with tiny paned windows in every one, except for the strange building in the very center of town. ... goes the text. Looking toward Nydia's home, you suddenly see the face of a young woman peeking out at you. You are fairly certain you have not seen this woman before. However, before you get a proper look, she quickly draws the curtain shut. If there are 8 tokens on the time track, which we have, turn to 26.10. There is clearly something going on in this village that people are trying to hide from you. Making your way back to your hut, you consider whether it would be prudent to spend the night investigating or to try to get a good night's sleep and regain your strength. Well, I think let's investigate. 26.29. Using the cover of darkness, you identify a few areas of interest to investigate further. Let's look at the area immediate around the village. This is clue token 2, so 26.35. Remove tracker token 2 from the board. Done deal. Careful not to venture too far into the Deepwood, you search the perimeter of the village. While there are clearly no fortifying walls, you do find a few simple fortifications driven into the ground. Hidden in the grass at the very edge of the clearing, you find a row of heavy stakes driven into the ground. Each one features a thick iron ring on top with some links of chain still attached. On one, you find a piece of dried up meat. The villagers appear to be using this as some kind of bait, but is it to lure beasts closer to the village or to ward them off? After a quick search for anything else out of the ordinary, you head back to your hut for some much-needed rest, pondering your new discovery. If you have clue token 5, gain clue token 6. If you do not have token 5, gain clue token 5. So we gain number 5. Clue token 1 and 5 up there. And there are 8 tokens on the time track, so back to 26 points, or onwards to 26.59. Your second day in the strange village, called Refuge, begins with your gathering your gear and heading to the commons. The place is bustling with activity as the villagers seem to be preparing for some kind of festival. You recall a few mentions of a feast from your conversations so far. The life of the Deepwood settler is rather bleak. Many settlements hold periodic celebrations as a way to keep the creeping darkness from consuming people's minds and eroding morale. Apparently, one such occasion is coming up, as you see them hanging bunting and erecting maypoles for the children to dance around. Of course, in the middle of all the activity, you find Nydia, busy organizing the offering directions. Good morning, she smiles as you approach. I hope you slept well. You've joined us at a great time here at Refuge. We are holding a feast the night after next to celebrate the One's protection over us all. We have so much to be thankful for. Speaking of which, I asked Sarah to prepare something special for you today to lift your spirits. Nydia pulls a small cloth-covered jar from a crate and hands it to you. She makes the most wonderful garlic mushrooms. I made sure to save you some. I'm afraid that is all I can offer you in the way of rations. Her scant offering of rations will not support your company for very long, and you consider asserting your authority, as Oathsworn, by demanding she provide more food. However, looking at the gaunt faces and undernourished bodies of the villagers, you realize they already live on less than what they need. They may be preparing for a feast, but such celebrations in the Deepwood are often meager affairs. I have bad feelings about this feast. And these mushrooms, for that matter. And provide more sustenance to the soul than the body. Accepting the gift, you thank her for her kindness. If you do not have clue token 3 and it's not on the village timesheets, if you have clue token 3 or it is on the village tile, okay, so it is on the village tile, so turn to 26.4, way back to the beginning of the book. If you have clue token 3 or it is on the village tile, turn to 26.4. Okay, so I just went to 26.4 and I don't think that's the correct one because it talks about a caravan, which we haven't seen yet. So 26.46, let's do that. Okay, well, I'm glad we were able to speak early this morning, Navy continues. I remembered something which may be of help to you. Not long ago, we had a caravan pass through trading iron and other wares. They are the ones who told us about the wire being lost. Ultimately, the merchants decided to brave the Deepwood rather than stay with us. They left with a supply of fluid, amber, and silk heading north. But I do not believe they managed to travel far. We heard screams in the distance that night and a great commotion not long after. Perhaps if you were to track down the remnants of the caravan, you would find rations for your travels, maybe even the wire road itself. With an entire day at your disposal, you consider your options. Would it be best to search for the lost caravan to the north and possibly solve your rations problems? Or should you choose a different route to focus your search? Oh, I mean, that sounds like a good thing to do, so let's do it. North, 19.1. Okay, let's see. I'm going to put that somewhere up there. And so north we go, 19.1. So we scoot up to here, and it is clear sailing all around. Oops. There we go. So north, 42.1. Let's do it. Okay, 42.1, and it is all clear again. $42.1. The mountains. Oops, 42.1 is. Yep, 42.1 is all clear. Okay, choose a direction to go in. Well, I mean, let's keep going north. So 18.1. There's a lot of flipping in these ones. Okay, so 18.1, there we go. And we have brambles directly in front of us, so we cannot go any further that way. We can, however, go west and east. You notice small indentations in the moss growing on the Deepwood floor here. They are faint, but you might be able to track whatever left them. Looking closely, you recognize the indentations as prints left behind by horse hooves. It seems they passed this way some time ago, heading west. Well, we're definitely going to go west, so 31.1. So much flipping in this one. Okay, 31.1. So we've got another open one in front. There we go. And apparently it's actually a bramble behind us now. I don't know how that works, but we shall flip that to a bramble and continue west. 24.1. Okay, so we had to pause my recording and go back because I totally mucked something up along the way. I think I read two of the wrong things and got partly on the right track and then also very much on the wrong track. So, after an indeterminate amount of time later, we are back on the track of this caravan. Carefully studying the terrain as you go, you notice the branches of the Deepwood trees have clearly been cut by axes. The practice is common among merchants who need to fit their carts and horses through tight spaces in the woods. The caravan passed this way at some point, but the terrain allows for only 3 possible exits to this area. Trails made by caravans do not last long in the ever-changing landscape of the Deepwood, but if you can pick up the tracks left behind, you may be able to learn where the caravan went. Okay, 39.2. Following the trail of crushed twigs and faint impressions of footprints in the mud, you make out the telltale signs of humans traveling west through a small pass between the Deepwood trees and a rocky outcropping. Well, we're definitely going to keep going west then. West, 27.1. Okay. And there we go. We have found the slain caravan. Boom, boom. And we have brackens all around us. There we go. Okay, so we are mapping out a huge swath of the Deepwood here. Happy, happy fun times. 27.1. Place the slain caravan tile there. So we have done so. It does not take you long to find the caravan, or what is left of it anyway. The wreckage of overturned carts and horse corpses are scattered on the path ahead. As a precautionary measure, you give... oh my goodness, words this time is awful. Speak good, I do not. As a precautionary measure, you give the area a quick visual search of to be certain that no creatures are lying in wait. With the area secured, you investigate the scene. As expected, there are no human remains among the wreckage. Fresh meat never sits long in the Deepwood. However, what you do find peculiar is the fact that there are no blood trails leading off into the woods, and the corpses of the horses have been left untouched. Interesting. Whatever took the merchants did so cleanly and no interest in consuming horseflesh. The spokes of the wheels of the carts have broken, and there are gouges in the wood sides. Taking a closer look, you notice the marks do not appear to have been made by claws or any other kind of beast. They are too clean, as though by some kind of bladed weapon. Perhaps they encountered a Scar tribe? Although you have never known a Scar tribe to leave behind fresh meat, and they most certainly would have left a far greater mess in their wake. Gain clue token 3. How perfect, we've got 3 there, so let's put that up here as well. Turning your attention to salvaging any supplies, you begin to search for rations or maps that may help you lead to Thrace. Digging through the wreckage, you find open sacks and broken crates, but no rations. It is odd for a caravan of this size not to have been properly stocked with food for such a journey. Before giving up the search, you luckily spot some equipment hidden in an overturned cart. As the dark clouds form overhead, then rain begins to fall, you are left with no choice but to head back to the village for the evening. Yet another day with no sign of a way to escape these dreaded woods. Okay, and then that's going to bring us to 16 time tokens, and so we need to read, excuse me, 26.53. You arrive back at refuge as the sun slips beneath the horizon. Place your free company back on the village. Done deal. Nidhi is already waiting for you at the edge of the strange clearing of greenery. Did you find what you're looking for, Oathsworn? She asks hopefully. Okay, so we have clue token 3 and 5 now. So clue token 3, let's do it. 26.32. Settling on a direct approach, you ask Nidhi if she knows anything about the caravan you found in the Deepwood. All dead, she asks? You nod. I suspected as much. They left us after the wire was lost. As you know, the woods here are treacherous. I do hope the next caravan will make it through. After all, we are still dependent on outside trade here. You explain how the caravan did not appear to have been attacked by beasts of the wild, but rather men with weapons. Our friends in the nearby village have been assaulted by a Scar tribe in the past, she says. Perhaps they returned? When asked if a Scar tribe has ever attacked refuge, Nydia shakes her head. No, the one protects us, she smiles. So culty, so creepy. Not gonna lie, I freaking love the cult stuff in this game, or the cult vibes at least. This, and I think chapter 9, maybe it was. Well done, well done. Okay, place clue token 3 on the village tile. So clue token 3. So we've got 16 tokens on the time track, so 26.24. With twilight settling over the village, the people hustle about in one last bustle of activity before the final rays of daylight are lost. Okay, I'm also realizing, so there's been a few indications of placing clue tokens on the village, which I don't know if I've been prompted, and if I was prompted, I definitely didn't do previously, so this is just the first one. So I might have mucked things up a little bit, but we shall see. Not gonna lie, I did already mess up directions in this one too, so I think I'm just cursed with this directional game. I'm just not paying enough attention to the to all the numbers in the book. Whoopsies! Okay, well, let's see. So we have tracker token 4 is gone, tracker token 5 is there, and tracker token 6 is there too. Well, let's see. I guess let's do a cultivator or a hunter. Let's talk to a hunter. I think that makes sense with what we've seen and done so far. So 26.50. Remove tracker token 5 from the village tile and archive it. Done deal. Most villages found on the outer edges of civilization tend to have very limited food choices, with roots and watery soups being the standard. And so anytime a carcass of wild game is dragged back to town, there tends to be quite a celebration. Hunters usually hold positions of high regard in many settlements, assuming they survive their duties long enough to enjoy it. They are also uniquely positioned to possess the kind of information a free company may be looking for. You find one of the village hunters on his way back from the green and stop him to ask a few questions, specifically if he may have found any signs of the wire of the road. No such luck, friends, he says, shaking his head. We searched for it, but only came across the want of a room. He quickly glances around. He waves you behind one of the huts. I don't know where the wire is, but there are some old ruins just south of refuge. You may want to investigate. The hunter suddenly freezes. Listening closely to the night air. Watch your heads. Watch your backs here, Oathsworn, he warns as he turns and leaves. Creepy! 16 tokens on the time track, 26.26. So it looks like south is the direction that we're going to go next. Back at your hut, you cannot escape the nagging feeling that there is something strange beneath the surface of this village. Abso-frickin-lutely there is. The people here seem off somehow. Suddenly, a thought strikes you. While observing the preparations for the festivities earlier, you noticed how the only person smiling was Nydia. The events of the day had left your body yearning for sleep, but your suspicions tell you to investigate the village. You need rest, but ignoring your instincts could prove dangerous. Indeed, spend the night investigating. 26.2. While hiding in the shadows, you debate where to focus your investigation. I think this time we are going to investigate the central building. Turn to 26 point... or do we want to sneak into Nydia's house? Tracker token 1 is on the village. Let's do it. 26.12. We are going to investigate that central building. Remove tracker token 1 from the village and archive it. Done dealio. You move quietly through the shadows of the village, sneaking over the... did we already do this, actually? Oh, no, we didn't. Sneaking over to the tall building to the center of the commons. You find the area is completely empty. There are not even guards stationed around the perimeter. Yet, another strange aspect of this tiny settlement in the middle of nowhere. Circling the tall building, you were unable to find a single door or window. Perhaps there is a hidden entrance of some kind, or some kind of entryway on the roof? Check the walls more closely or climb the structure. Let's check the walls more closely. 26.31. Okay. While searching the building's exterior, you suddenly smell the rotten stench of death and decay. It's definitely coming from within the structure. Okay, if we have clue token 5, gain clue token 6, that we shall do. We'll do 6. Before you can move to investigate further, a voice calls to you. Up late, Oathsworn? Turning, you see Nydia standing in the darkness with a smile on her face. That is a shrine where offerings to the One are laid, she says, motioning to the tall building. It stood here long before my arrival to the village. It's the reason we've been protected all these years. You've encountered many strange beliefs in your travels to the various villages littering the Deepwood, but none quite like this. Your attempts to understand more about their faith go unanswered as Nydia bids you farewell for the night. You must get your rest, Oathsworn. You have a long day ahead of you. Though she has done little to assuage your suspicion, she is right about needing rest. Trying to find the wire road on no sleep all but ensures failure. As Nydia fades into the night, you head back to your hut for a much-needed rest. Okay. 26.41. On the morning of your third day, you are woken at dawn by the sound of villagers busy at work. Stepping from your hut, you see preparations for the upcoming feasts are nearly complete. They must have begun hours early before sunrise to be this far along in the effort. Almost immediately, Nydia approaches. Good morning, Oathsworn, she says, offering you an armful of provisions. Please take this for your journey ahead, and if you don't find your way back to the Wire Road today, remember you are welcome to join us for this evening feast. Oh, we don't have clue token 4, alas. So turn to 26.27. As Nydia begins to turn away, she pauses. I had not mentioned this yet due to the danger, but there is another route which may lead you back to the Wire Road. To the east, there is an old trader's route which cuts through the mountains. The Wire Road passes along that area, so you may be able to reacquire it on the other side. I've never ventured that way myself, so it can't be of more help. Good luck to you, friends. Your presence here has been uplifting to our people. We've been hopeful you would join us for the feast this evening, but understand you have a mission you must complete. With her signature smile, definitely gives me a "there's nothing wrong in bossing say" vibes. She turns and depart. Not wanting to burn daylight, you deliberate on which direction to take today. Should you follow the route Nydia suggested, or attempt another route? Well, I think we're going to go south and follow that hunter's advice instead. So 17.1. Okay, 17.1. So we scoop down here, and we have easy options. So we are going to continue south to 16.1. So there we go. And this is officially basically off my table space now, but we'll see. Okay, 16.1, perform a spot check. 16.2. Studying the terrain, you learn that something huge passed through here. Several trees list to either side, nearly toppling over the broken limbs strewn about. Interestingly, you also notice several deep holes in the dirt, somewhat like those one would dig for a fence post. Okay, well, let's continue south, going to 46.1, a huge jump. 46.1. Okay, so that brings us down to, we can't go any further south because there is actually brambles. It's literally off my table space here. I wonder if we can actually push this forward more, and we'll have just enough space to put those brambles there. That will do. Okay, so we got that there, and we can go east and west. So that is something. Moving through the cursed woods, you finally discover signs of civilization. Half buried in the earth and covered by moss and rotten roots are the remnants of an old stone wall. Following along, you find more ruins and a dried-up riverbed which snakes its way down from the mountains to the east. Whatever this place once was, the area it covers is vast. Okay, so we're not going to go north. Remnants of an old stone wall. Following along, you find more ruins and a dried-up riverbed. Okay, so I think let's just go... snakes its way down from the mountains to the east. I think in that case, let's go... So we know to the mountains is a path, and the wall is following this riverbed westward. So I think let's go west. 21.1. Okay, well, I was going to do that, and then it just got me backwards in a way I don't want to go. So that was the wrong way to go. That's okay. East 46.1, so back to where we were. 46.1. Okay, so east we go to 48.1. There we go. Oh, God. So we can actually go further south if we want to. So I think we probably will. Just going to be super off our table here. We'll see. So there we go. As you travel deeper into the ruins, it becomes clear this was an ancient city at one time. You can easily pick out the hollowed husks of destroyed buildings and other structures dominating the landscape. The Deepwood is choked with the remnants of old, forgotten cities, but the ruins here feel older than any you encountered before. Looking east, you see a maze of endless buildings, and to the south, there is an old, dried-up riverbed which runs through the city there. The landscape to the south seems like it may be harder to traverse, and will take more time to navigate. However, the view to the east is heavily obscured by ruins and offers poor visibility. Well, I think we want to probably go to the east and see what the city's all about. Also biased because I can't really go any further south just with running off my table space here. But so east it is 51.1. Okay, 51.1. Looks like we are going to have to go south after all, because north we have brambles, and east we also have brambles. So, from here, we go south, in which it's the very last tile that we can place this way, so hopefully we don't need to go further south. 36.1. That is the edge of my table there. Alrighty, Roo. 36.1. Huzzah! We found the ruined city. Place the ruined city tile, that we shall. There we go. Rising from the land in what is clearly the center of this former city, you find a massive temple complex. Truly an architectural marvel, the structure is built from a strange dark stone which has silver veins running through it. If there is any place worth exploring in the city, it is certainly this. Picking up a stone, you toss it through the open entrance of the temple and wait. Nothing stirs or makes a sound from within. Sparking your amber torches, you head into the shadows. Along the walls inside the temple, you find silver veins running through an array of corridors splitting off to form a giant maze. After a few turns, you realize you may have gotten yourselves lost. Oh, great adventurers here. .2. Every passage is curved, making it difficult to keep track of individual turns you make. However, you were able to retrace your steps and begin to recognize which corridors you have already passed through. After exploring several passages, you come to a central chamber and discover the curved corridors were purposely built as a series of concentric rings radiating out from the central room. It appears this chamber may hold some sort of ritual significance to a larger temple. The chamber is an 8-sided room filled with eldritch architecture and carvings which are too alien for you to make sense of. Across each of the 8 walls are frescoes depicting what appears to be some sort of timeline of chronological history of this place. An image you see on one of the walls sends a chill down your spine. It features a perfectly rendered image of an enormous spider, its front legs rearing up to blot out the sun behind it. Arrayed before the arachnid are the carved images of figures who appear to be using large receptacles to collect a string of silk threads spun from its gaping abdomen. Other humanoid shapes bow down in reverence, clearly worshipping the arachnid. Interesting. Interesting indeed. And also in line with the bite victims we saw with the 2 puncture wounds. So gain clue token 2. That we shall. If you have clue token 4, or it is on the village tile. Dang, we don't have 4. If you do not, turn to 36.6. The nightmares which stalk the Deepwood are regarded in many ways, but you have never heard of one that was worshipped in a temple. This creature was clearly revered by this civilization. If tracker token 5 is not on the village, which it is the case, turn to 36.8. The hunter, Tarek, appears to have sent you here for a reason. He may have hoped the ruined city would claim you as a victim, but something tells you that is not the case. The look in his eyes had been anxious. He wanted you to find this place, perhaps hoping you might discover the truth of this creature. Okay, so if you have Clue Token 5, gain Clue Token 6, we have both of those. Stepping from the temple, you find the sun beginning to dip below the horizon. Setting off at double pace, you head back to the refuge. Place time tokens on the track until... Okay, so we need to flip things over now. Let's see. Let's see if we can get this out of here. So we flip this, and we go to 26.7 in the storybook. Cool, so if you have found 3 more clue tokens, mark the extra unique item on the box for chapter 14. So we would get to that if we were playing the full game proper. Exhausted and frustrated, you return to refuge only to find that Nydia is not waiting at the edge of the clearing to greet you as she was on each of the prior days. The sounds of flutes and drums playing lively music tell you why. The feast is already in full swing. You find the villagers dancing around a maypole and talking together in the commons. Plates of bread and meat adorn the tables, and even an assortment of fruity treats for dessert. Treats! Ah, the guests of honor have arrived, Nydia calls out. Now the feast can truly begin. She beckons you over to a central table prepared just for you. It seems out of place to be held in such esteem, but the villagers are overjoyed by your presence and the food does smell delicious. Still, you are in no mood to celebrate, and it takes a bit of coaxing from Nydia for you to agree to join the feast. Once everyone has had their seats, Nydia leads the assembly in prayer. Let us give thanks to the One who protects us and gives us peace. The One is absolutely the spider. May she ever watch over us. And also spiders often given that female connotation in different films and media and such too, so absolutely. As we feast, so will she. Our joy rises. As our joy rises, may all those gathered here make merry, for we are the chosen and this place is our refuge, now and always. Interesting that always is capitalized there. Now and always, once again capitalized, the villagers reply to the liturgy. As the music begins again, Nydia pours some wine. Our best for the guests of honor, she says, smiling as she offers each of you a cup. Reasoning check. That's kind of cool. So you get to difficulty 9, but you get to subtract the number of clues you have. So that's pretty sweet. 26.13. You suspect the drink has been laced and decide the time has come to confront Nydia. She's been hiding the truth and guiding you down false paths ever since your arrival, to keep you trapped in this village. Every interaction has deepened your suspicion towards a darker deception lurking beneath the surface here, and you will no longer play her game. Slapping the cup from Lydia's hand, you rise. Choose one. Confront Nydia. Turn to 26.39. You quickly draw your weapons and surround Nydia, cutting off her escape. As you level your accusations, Nydia interrupts with laughter. It's too late. She's already been summoned. She's coming for you. We only need to offer you up. Nydia nods to someone, and you suddenly hear the sound of a dozen weapons being drawn. Turning, you find a group of men armed with cudgels and pitchforks. They are clearly the backup plan in case the laced drink had not done the trick. As one, they charge. The initial rush manages to drive you back towards the edge of the village. There is a ferocity in their eyes that seems to be driven by fear rather than hate. Ultimately, they are no match for your skill and power, but as you gain the upper hand, they cease their assault and begin to back away with terrified looks on their faces. Turning, you see the Deepwood trees swaying in the night air, accompanied by the heavy, hastened thud of dozens of approaching legs. Ew! Turn to 26.56. So I kind of wish I went the route of investigating the lady that was locked up that we haven't met and talked to, but I thought we'd have the opportunity to speak with her again, and that didn't pan out, so oh well. 26.56. Rushing down from the trees, you see dozens of fat, 8-legged spiders crawling toward you. They weave webs that coat every surface they touch, leaving a blanket of silk in their wake, which stretches far into the Deepwood. It's as though they are preparing a royal procession for a queen. Massive, spear-like black legs flicker into view high in the trees, as the light of the amber torches reflect off a multitude of horrid eyes and bulbous torso of egg sacs and black chitin. The giant creature draws slowly closer, as if savoring the meal to come. Big-time Shelob vibes. Looking into its fixated black orbs, you see intelligence and a voracious hunger. The people of Refuge have made a pact with that? You quickly form a defensive ring as the first hound-sized web weavers approach, their weapons cleaving and slicing furry abdomens and spiky legs. They are not easy to kill, for each one slain, more are quick to descend from the trees beyond. Somehow, you will need to find a quick advantage if you hope to get out of this alive. A short distance away, you see a circle of amber torches surrounding a bunch of wooden stakes fixed with manacles driven into the ground. Clearly, the plan was to shackle you there and offer you as a sacrifice to the horde of spiders. On a hunch, you rush the circle and grab one of the amber torches. Testing your theory, you set fire to the sticky webbing that coats the nearby tree and watch this fire spread rapidly up the trunk. The flames quickly engulf the tree, felling every spider lurking in its boughs. Your victory is short-lived, however, as you turn to face the queen spider and find she has disappeared. Spiders are ambush predators, and she has slipped into the treetops in order to wait for the perfect moment to strike. You can feel her giant midnight black eyes watching you as her young descend from the trees. And then we fight. So we did not solve all of the mystery. We barely got to the root of it. And just looking at, like, obviously you can see various other things that happen throughout the book as you flip through. And so we didn't do the best job here. But that's okay. Kind of a funny one. Poor job reading. Poor job speaking in general. Got lost in the woods. And also didn't solve the mystery. But oh well. We've gotten to the end, so that's something. So I'm going to take a sec to just clear this away, and we'll go through what we like to do of seeing what's in the box, and read the epilogue and check out the unique items. Huzzah! Okay. And it is time to ask the age-old question. What's in the box? Upside down. Joy. Ta-da! And it's one I did paint too. Gribbly and freaking cool, horrific giant spider mini. And it's just like pulsating to grow with all kinds of babies. Oh, it's so creepy. And I love it. I also painted it like a watermelon because heck yeah. Top-down view. Yeah, so Broodmother, Spider, the One, creepy and cool. And then I just realized it actually does have minions too. So let's take a little look here in the encounter book and see if we can figure out what chapter 11, 34. Okay, and a second what's in the box. It's minions. Let's take a little peek here too. I forgot there's a whole bunch of them. So little fun spiderlings. So there's 12 of them, which is pretty wild. And basically just little baby versions of Mama. Fuzzy little spider boys or lasses. Super cool. And then obviously they would go out on the map, and just judging by how many of them there are, I assume this is a person with a fear of spiders nightmare kind of encounter. Looks like a fun one though, because there's so many little baddies that would all come out. And yeah, that looks pretty freaking sweet, especially on the board there too. This one was a really fun, really quick, simple paint job, and kind of wish we got to this one because this was a really cool story. Although I will absolutely say, even just recording and looking back and making mistakes and such, part of it's just me being sleepy today, I think. But the journey thing is, I really like the journey thing. Just all of the flipping through the book for it also feels a little tedious too. Okay, so yeah, we got Spider Boys. Very cool. Put that one just off there. And let's take a look at the unique item cards, because absolutely we are. Resolute Banner. I don't know how this would come into play. Yeah, we're on the right one. With the story at all. Summon an ally with full animus in an empty hex. You can control them in addition to your own character at the start of your next Oathsworn phase. Remove them from turn. That's pretty cool. So you summon a buddy. Tinker's Folly also looks kind of like steampunk. There's like a guessing element to it. Pretty cool. Also, not relevant how it comes into play. Queen's Bite. So this has got to be a fang or a stinger or something. When you critical during an attack, treat this ability as 0. Okay. Forgotten Blade, all covered in spider webs. Love it. Silk. That's a pretty freaking wicked name for a bow. I like that. That's cool. I think like nothing really outstanding out of those ones in my mind, but some great names. That's pretty cool. But let's take a look at, before we do the after thing. So there is the map there. You'll notice that you don't put the queen on, or the web winder, web whisperer, whatever her name was, on the board. So she's going to drop down at various points, and you got a gazillion evil little spiderling minions and trees. So pretty cool. There's the encounter board. So there is the official art for it, which is pretty neat. And got the torches there as well. Super gribbly and cool. Look at all those little spiderlings and the giant broodmother looking creature. Creepy. Awesome. Love it. Special rules. So I'm not going to read these out on camera, so definitely feel free to pause and take a read through there if you like. And a 3, a 2, a 1, and we'll move on. Cool. Very cool. Let's go ahead and flip to the end and do the epilogue here. Oh, it's a fairly long epilogue. Very nice. Alrighty, starting epilogue 1 on this page. With an earth-shaking thud, the 8-legged monstrosity crashes to the ground, her black chitinous legs shattered. The eggs clustered on her back burst as she shudders into the throes of death. Her remaining young skitter away, no doubt in search of some dark hole to hide in. Leaning heavily on your weapons, you inspect your many wounds to see which will need the most attention. Understandably, the villagers are all in shock. They had not expected this outcome either. If you have Priestess keyword on your free company sheet, if you do not, okay, we do not, turn to EP3. Nydia rushes to the body of the Spider Queen, and to your disgust, she embraces it. "My queen!" she cries. "What have ye done to you?" Rounding on you with a curse on her lips, Nydia draws a short dagger and lunges at you. Your blade pierces her heart before hers ever lands. Blood pools beneath Nydia's body as she lies beside her queen. Whatever sick power had been at work here hopefully dies with her. Turning back to the assembled crowd, you see a myriad of emotions: anger, shame, sorrow, confusion. But there is no escaping the fact that these people dared to pick up arms against Free Company. Turn to EP4. Since the pact has been broken, everyone could be considered complicit to one degree or another. They all knew what was happening here, feeding innocent souls to a giant spider for some sort of sorceress protection. A decision must be made, but there is little time to discover all of the facts. You could eventually ferret out all those who enforced Nydia's will upon the village, and only execute them if you wished. You could also judge them all as one and purge the village from the Deepwood. Or, there is always the option of granting them clemency. Looking over the crowd of villagers, you suddenly see Samil sitting at the central feasting table, watching you with a keen interest as though awaiting your decision. Okay, choose one. Purge the village entirely. Execute those in Nydia's inner circle. Grant the village clemency, killing no one. I think with all the horrible stuff going on back in Varum, let's grant them clemency. Your words only deepen the shock on the faces before you. They had all feared the worst, certain of a death sentence. However, by granting them clemency, you have earned both trust and respect this day. With the difficult business done, you take the opportunity to speak with the remaining villagers. Turn to 8. Each person you talk to shares a similar story. The villagers had grown desperate before Nydia arrived, often suffering attacks from the Scar tribes throughout the region. But all that stopped the moment Nydia took over and implemented her ways. It all began with the sacrifice of a few criminals, people already marked for death. The very day the first souls were condemned, both the Deepwood and the tribes were immediately held at bay. As time went on, things slowly changed, and Nydia took greater control over everyone's lives. Dissenters were the first to be sacrificed once her authority was no longer challenged. She ordered the villagers to cut the wire road and began preying on wayward travelers who were funneled through refuge. All Nydia ever asked for was that they turn a blind eye to the carnage. The one person who may have suffered through this time the most was Nydia's own daughter, Clydia. It's kind of funny, because we have a Lydia, who's an ally of ours, and now Nydia, who's dead, and her daughter, Clydia. The young woman was held captive for years inside her home, all because she refused to go along with her mother's murderous scheme. So, bugger. If we did go and talk with her at the beginning, I kind of assumed to be able to talk to her on the second night, but it didn't present itself, so should have just spoken with her right away. She couldn't bring herself to sacrifice me, but she would never allow me to leave either. All I want is to leave this place and never to return. Will you take me with you? I'm good with a bow and I can take care of myself. So allow her to join for sure. So gain ally card 4, Clydia. Thank you so much. Clydia says, her eyes glistening with tears of joy. I promise I won't let you down. She quickly retrieves her backpack and bow from a nearby table. Apparently, she had been confident enough that you would accept her into her free company that she packed her things before asking. Or perhaps she was preparing to leave this place even if you refused her. After speaking with the villagers, you search Nydia's house and find a map of the area with handwritten notes indicating the section of the wire road which had been removed as part of her trap. It should not have been too difficult to find your way back now. At first light, you gather as many rations as you can carry and head off into the Deepwood once again, destined for Thrace. Cool. So one little small thing I like, just kind of like environmental storytelling, shall we say, is how the ruined city down in the south, the buildings were veined with silver, and Nydia, who knows where she's from, but I assume is some sort of descendant of that place, had a silver thread in which we used to move her along. So just a little fun little thing there. Cool. Well, that was sweet. Creepy, cool cult stuff. I'm here for it. It's been awesome in this game. It's been really, really neat. Really well done cult stuff. I do think, and this is, again, I can't blame the game. I think this is just me not paying enough attention. But the setting the map out adventure thing and just how many pages and things you need to flip through becomes a little fiddly. But great story, that's for sure. Yeah, and so on that note, thanks for joining me for a little Oathsworn story time, and we'll see you sometime in the future for chapter 15. Bye!